We're at Lake Pleasant Regional Park and we got to go for a mountain bike ride. And I gotta tell you, I've never seen a trail with so many jackasses.
There's only one of those.
All right, stick with me. Let me explain. We're on Wildboro Trail, and it's pretty fun. It's a blue trail, nothing steep, nothing tragic, but a lot of saguaro cactuses, cacti, and Wildboro. That was crazy. We're used to seeing deer across the trail. We're used to seeing elk across the trail. We've seen moose on the trail, but I've never seen a wild donkey. It's pretty cool though. We're looking for a beautiful sunset behind us and trying to get back before it gets dark because we have no lights. But it's good. Harley went down once. He stayed out of the cactus, but just barely.
Yep.
Yeah. He likes to crash once a ride. I think it's a prerequisite for his rides. So anyway, we're gonna get on with the trail, but definitely a cool park to camp in. We're liking it. This is just about an hour north of Phoenix, and about 30 minutes will get you into the northern part of Phoenix.
My first time ever starting the truck with the trailer behind it.
Did you turn the pump on?
Yes. I just thought it was really heavy. Evidently the parking brake was on. Here I am just thinking, wow, that trailer is really heavy to tow. It's even heavier with the brake on. Can you share with our viewing audience the sound you made in the truck as we pulled up here?
I said, I'm going to scrub in. So this is not something we normally have to do, meaning dump at a dump station. But as we were working on our abilities to dry camp, I need a new bag. As we work on our abilities to dry camp, this is something that we need to do more often. And that is use the tanks, the waste tanks, while at camp, and then dump on the way out, which is never fun, but is a necessary evil. Love the feeling of water splashing. That's why we have rubber gloves. And I've already been warned by one of the other people in the same park that we were just in that one of these bubbled over on him. Ew.
I think it might be that one.
And bubble over doesn't mean soapy water all the time. So, trying to arrange a little security here.
Do you feel like Robin Williams yet? Oh my, that smells bad.
I won't until a big pile of brown matter comes up. And I hope that doesn't happen. So, little tester. I wouldn't film the joint where it comes out because that's kind of gross.
Oh, you wouldn't?
Yeah. See, we got a little bit of surprise, surprise. Not a good seal. Stop. So mine actually has a bad connection. Right? Oh, yucky.
Oh my.
Right there. All right. Hello.
Well, you didn't show your expertise well there.
Then the connector got the rubber stuck in between it, so let the ugly juice come out in between. Oh, you're recording that, right? Yeah. So here's a tip. First time it ever happened to me. So they have these rubber boots or gaskets you put in the drain before putting your elbow in that, so it helps seal it up. I caught the rubber lip of that adapter in my junction, in my connector, which actually opened it up a little bit, which let a little bit of the icky water out. I've never, in all my time, let the there was one little small incident, but anyway, it's all gone pretty well. So if you have one of those, don't do what I did, and make sure you turn that handle, that lip around, so it doesn't get caught in your junction, your connector, because that opened it up just enough to let the interesting water out and be free. But luckily it wasn't a disaster, just a seepage.
And let me tell you, it does smell really bad. So I have a newfound respect for Trav's job with that. Oh my gosh, I had to stand here like this. I have a sensitive nose. Even on the trail yesterday when we were hiking, I could smell the perfume or it wasn't even perfume, essential oils from like people walking in front of us. So I had to ask them which one it was. But this, not good.
And she gets grossed out when she has to scoop the stuff out of the kitchen sink drain, like the food particles. Yeah, I keep telling her, I will trade you any day.
No trade. I'll ew, but I'll do it. I don't want to do that.
Now you know. I'm glad you shared this with me, honey. So it's time to get the oil and the transmission serviced for Hagrid. We're in Lake Pleasant Regional Park, just north of Phoenix this week. So I had to make an appointment for this a couple weeks ago. Everybody was so busy. That's one downside to having a diesel is trying to get it into a Ford shop. It definitely takes a couple weeks of planning just to get an oil change. And it's a little more expensive. The reason I do it is because I've read that some oil change places will not use the right filter, the Ford filter, which can cause issues for you down the road, and I just don't have time to deal with more issues. So anyway, taking it to the Ford dealer in Surprise, Arizona, and it'll make for a little bit different work day today. It's about 30 minutes away, so I had to pack up the computer and we'll give the Ford dealer the truck and work out of the Ford dealer for a couple hours while they're servicing the truck. So cruising down the highway among the cactus on the way to the Ford dealer. And it has been beautiful in Arizona this week. The temps are low 70s, about 70 to 73 during the day. So it's shorts weather, flip-flops weather, and then it cools off at night to the extent that you need jeans and a flannel. Today is a start out in flannel, but I've got shorts on, so when it gets warm while I'm down here in Surprise, then yeah, I can remove a layer or two. But yeah, it's been absolutely beautiful. I've been loving it. Jen and the kids are back in Colorado for a couple of days for Sedona's braces, and then they're flying in again tomorrow night, Tuesday night, to reconvene at the RV so we can carry on. But the park has been great. Lake Pleasant Regional Park is where we're at. It was fairly busy over the weekend, but as often happens, once Sunday afternoon rolls around, all the weekenders have to pack up and head home. So things get pretty quiet. So yeah, Sunday night was great, and a nice quiet day today. So looking forward to a week of relaxation among the cactus in Lake Pleasant Regional Park. So I came to Surprise Ford in Surprise, Arizona with an 11:10 a.m. appointment. And it's 2:37, and I just saw the tech put the drain pan under my truck for the first time. The service manager sat there and told me that she was all done underneath and that she was just going to be finishing up the top part of it, putting the oil in, transmission fluid in, and would be out of here about 45 minutes. That was easily 45 minutes ago. So I think I now know what the surprise is when it comes to Surprise Ford. I'm not sure why they call it quick lane. It's pretty much the not so quick lane. So yeah, it's been well over 4 hours to get an oil change and transmission fluid change. So we'll see. Maybe I'll get out of here within the next 2 hours at this pace. He told me how busy they are, but you can see their service bay has but one car in it. So I think the moral of the story is don't take your darn truck to the dealer to get the oil changed, unfortunately. So they finally gave me my truck back 4 hours later. It's actually just a little bit more than 4 hours for an oil change and transmission fluid change. That was crazy. And the worst thing is they gave it back to me and they pull it up ready to go, and it's just dripping transmission fluid out the bottom of it. So they took it back to look at it, and apparently the tech dumped a bunch in, you know, not in the filler, but all around the transmission, and it's dripping out. Hopefully, that's the truth. I checked twice on the way home. It seems like it slowed the dripping, but it's all over the back of the truck, which is lovely. Now I get a car wash. They should have washed it for me, I think. Anyway, what a nightmare. This is why I don't have other people do work on my vehicles. This is why I do my own work, but unfortunately that's life on the road. You don't have a choice. You don't get to do your own work. You get to pay through the nose for somebody else to do it poorly. Oh well. So I'm not done with Hagrid yet in the oil change transmission service saga. We've been driving around a little bit, and I noticed the transmission was puking a bunch of transmission fluid on the ground. So it wasn't just a splash, you know, and remnants left by the service tech. I think the tech probably overfilled the transmission, and it's probably coming out of the breather in the transmission. So I've had to call Surprise Ford and tell them I was going to bring it back in and have them look at it, because it's making an absolute mess of the truck, and it actually left a trail in the campground to my campsite last night when I brought Jen and the kids back from the airport. So now I'm driving another 30 minutes back down to the Ford dealer to have them check it out and get it set straight, get the right amount of fluid in there and clean up the truck so it's not doing this, because we've got to move on Sunday to our next stop. So anyway, we're taking the truck back, and the saga continues, unfortunately. You know, this stuff could happen while you're at home in a neighborhood in a normal house. It just makes the logistics a little bit more difficult when you're on an RV. It's our only vehicle. And so anyway, this is one of the things you have to deal with, I guess. We'll see how it goes. Well, I got out of Surprise Ford and the leak is gone, which is good. They did find that it was way too much transmission fluid filled the first time they changed out, so it was burping out of my vent tube in the transmission. So anyway, they got it cleaned up, got it filled correctly, and they even steam washed and hand washed the truck for me, so that was cool. So they ultimately made it right in the end, but it was a hassle for sure. It cost me $20 in diesel just to go down and back an extra time. But anyway, I didn't haggle too much about that. We got the truck back, it's running right, and now we can move on. So we've decided to make this video more about being in Lake Pleasant Regional Park than Phoenix. It's been a little bit of an awkward week for us. Jen and the kids flew out to Denver to go back home to get some braces tuned and get a few things done. That was earlier in the week. And I don't know, because we're up in Lake Pleasant, which is really an hour from most things to see in Phoenix, it just seems like a lot of driving to go through to get down and see things. So we actually tried to go to, what was it, the Living
Pioneer Museum.
Yeah, Living Pioneer Museum up here.
Which was a big mess today.
Yeah, it was a big letdown, unfortunately, only because I guess on weekends the volunteers don't really come in to do all of the
actual living history part.
Yeah, the acting out, blacksmithing, and gunfights and that kind of stuff. So we ended up not doing that and going for a hike here at Lake Pleasant anyway. So anyway, we're going to include our top 10 things that surprised us about living full-time on an RV. Something we've been wanting to get to, and I think this is a good opportunity, so let's do that. All right, number one, we imagined, before we went on this journey, mountain views across mirrored lakes, beautiful campsites out in the wilderness. Okay, not quite that ideal, but the reality is, for the first 5 months, we've stayed in RV parks with hookups, and really, it's about cellular service. So we were a little surprised that we'd spend that much time in RV parks.
Yeah, and I mean, we didn't know what we were doing. We need cell coverage, so a lot of it had to do with we don't know what our tanks can hold water-wise. Let's just get it all taken care of before we push ourselves too hard to get out of our comfort zone. I think cell service, water, electricity's nice, at night. So we haven't quite figured that part out, but we're moving in that direction now.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, I think, may jump into it. They've outfitted the rig with solar and extra batteries and everything they need to go boondock right away. We didn't do that because we don't know how long we're going to do this. So we went out with the rig that we bought. I do have some solar panels. It's 100 watts of portable solar. So we're going to do some testing on that this coming week to see what dry camping is like, just running a single laptop off of that. We already know it works. So it's going to be a bit of a learning experience, getting used to not being able to really use much water and electricity. Things run differently. The refrigerator now runs on propane. We're not hooked into electricity. And not having any place to store the water, or at least running out of room of places to store the water, is also a big issue. So we're going to find out pretty quick what it's like to be unhooked. But the upside to all that is it's either much less expensive or free. So that kind of makes part of the adventure a little bit better when you can do it on a budget.
Yeah, and I think that, our ideal was, of course, to be out in more nature. And it just took us some time to get there. I think the transition to RV life is surprising in itself. You're learning everything new. We both agree that going the route we did by staying at RV parks mostly worked out. It let us kind of ease into what was going to be required. We were already easing into this life and the lifestyle that it takes. So having a little bit of time to still have the creature comforts was actually, I think, much appreciated.
It is. It lets you relax. I mean, there's enough to figure out and learn when you first start doing this. So I would definitely still recommend people start out that way. Just go and get the hookups, and it's just one less thing to worry about as you're learning the rest of RV life. So number 2 surprise, we were actually a little surprised at how non-social or chatty people are in RV parks. We kind of figured RV community, everybody be walking over and talking to each other, but we were a little surprised that you walk your dogs or just walking around the RV park, you say hi to people, and they may or may not make eye contact. And I don't know, I guess I thought it was like RV community more chatty, but what we found is when we go to state parks or county parks, regional parks, it definitely is a more social crowd, I guess, in that sense. So I think maybe what it is maybe people that are going to RV parks are just kind of maybe going to be, I don't want to say alone because you're with a whole bunch of people, but just kind of more to themselves, I guess.
I think it's a little hard to pinpoint because sometimes people will drive around and they all wave at you. And I'm walking the dogs and a lot of people wave. But again, sometimes people are just keeping to themselves. And I feel like we once moved to the mountains. And what I felt like living in the mountains was that everybody moves to the mountains to kind of be alone. And it's not against people. Maybe they're just more introverted. And so I'm starting to wonder if there's a social group of RVers and a more introverted group. I mean, I think we tend to the more introverted anyway, so it's kind of funny that it even stood out to us. But we're still learning. We'll figure it out. We know that some people seem to want to meet up and get together, so we haven't got that far yet.
Yeah. So that brings us to number 3, and that is we have always been somewhat of introverts. We've always been okay doing our own thing and off in quiet corners, being by ourselves. But on this journey, at least for me, I've been kind of seeking out people to chat with. I stop by while walking dogs to go ask people how they like the rig or their tow vehicle or some attachment they might have. Because I actually have been seeking out that social interaction that I never thought I would miss. That's been kind of interesting. What about you? Do you feel the same introversion or?
I think I kind of feel the same introversion. I get what he's saying in many ways, and he's way more curious about rigs. I could stand next to you for an hour and not know if you were in a Class A or a Class C or a trailer. I just don't even notice that sort of thing. But I'm with the kids all day, so I'm constantly being talked to and talking to people. So maybe I don't feel as like I need it, but I do get the like adult conversation. Not that like, you know, my kids are mini adults now, but you know, someone who to commiserate with once in a while, I think would be nice.
Right.
But it's definitely not a necessity for me.
Yeah, I kind of need it both ways. I don't want to have a big old party. I'm not, you know, wanting to be the socialite in that sense, but at the same time, I do kind of want to talk to people because you're with your kids all day, which is not a bad thing, but in my line of work, I don't do a lot of conference calls and talking to the others. It's kind of, most of us are independently doing our own work. So, I don't know, it was kind of a surprise. I didn't expect that.
So this is the teddy bear cholla cactus. Who wants to snuggle with this one? Ow.
Okay, number 4, most surprising things about living on an RV full time is that you find you want to live every day like you're camping, but you can't. For me, that means I want to have a campfire every night, and I want to have a beer or two every night. But I'm not a guy who normally grabs a beer after work. I might have 2 pints a week, and now that I'm out here doing this, I want to reach for that Coors Light, you know, and sip on it while I'm sitting in my camp chair by a campfire, but it's not realistic.
And I mean, coinciding with that is like the idea of you're always on vacation. I get these looks when we're like explaining to the baristas at Starbucks that we are living full time on an RV, and there's this sudden like, oh, that must be nice, or ooh, early retirement. No. And one of the things we hope to show people by doing this is that you don't have to wait till retirement, and we're not wealthy and loaded trust funders or something. It's a process. So that whole idea that we're on vacation or camping permanently is not quite how it pans out.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, if you think about campfires, every time you go down to buy a bundle of wood at the grocery store, it's $6, $7 if you buy it in the park.
We've seen it $10 a bundle.
Yeah, so for us to have a couple of campfires in a week is a $20, if we're lucky, a $20 purchase just to have campfires. So you can't do that every night. And it's the same thing with the beer. Boy, if I grabbed a beer every night and, I'd start packing on the pounds, plus it gets more expensive. So, yeah, that was a surprise. We didn't think we were going to go do this and live like we're camping every night, but I'm surprised that I actually want to, and it's actually hard to hold back.
And I think we're leaning in, right, to camping more, though. That camping ideal.
Yep. You got to find that balance.
Number 5. I just thought we'd have more adventure. I mean, we're having a lot of adventure, but I thought we'd be more like camping, like staying in state parks, having campfires every night, doing school outside, eating outside. But no, like the RV parks are like a neighborhood, and I do like the mix of both. So.
I guess 5.5 would be next. But my thing is that the size of the RV. I thought we were going to have like a big, luxurious, awesome RV, but with that big of an RV, it's hard to get into some places like national parks or state parks. But with a smaller RV, like a travel trailer, you can get into more places.
Our director is sometimes bossing with the camera.
Director.
So number 6 on our list of wow, we're surprised at that. is the clothes we decided to pack. We envisioned this, we'd be chasing 70 all year round. We would just find whatever 70 degrees and go there. Didn't quite work out. We found ourselves in September in really cold, hailing weather, and now we're in January, or February actually, and it's in the 70s. So we planned poorly. We put a bunch of clothes on the RV that were more summer-ish, and we wear our same clothes over and over. I'm still looking for the perfect hoodie for those chillier days, but I think that took us by surprise. We thought the weather would always be just nice and balmy.
Yeah, you may have noticed most of the videos are I'm wearing one of 5 flannels. That's the reason. I thought those flannels would pretty much get stuck away and rarely used, maybe for campfires, that kind of thing. Turns out we've needed them a lot more. In fact, we even packed away winter jackets, boots, that kind of thing in Colorado, left them in our house because no way we're going to be in that kind of cold weather. And when we were in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, we actually went out and bought a couple of winter jackets just because we didn't have them. So that was a bit of a surprise. But you can't just go out and buy a whole bunch of new clothes because you have no place to put them. I mean, our closet space is limited. So.
And summer is coming.
And
so
summer
how
is
do you,
coming.
Make it all work. We're trying to figure it out.
Yeah. So anyway, that was a surprise.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about, because it's not as much for Trav as it is for me, is that when people make any kind of big life change, you really need to give yourself some time to adjust to that lifestyle. I have seen people, on Instagram saying, wow, this is hard, or I really miss my friends back home. I didn't know it was going to be that challenging. And I think the emotional transition whenever you're making an enormous change, I think the important thing to remember is to give yourself some time to adjust. I would say it took me personally about 4 months before I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing and I really like what we're doing. Before that, it was like, well, why all these questions? Why isn't it like what I expected? In 100 ways, it's not like how I expected. And in 100 more ways, it's better than I expected. So I think once you settle into some routine and you figure out whose job it is to kind of do what, and everybody comes together, it becomes a lot easier and a lot more enjoyable. So I don't want people to get disappointed when they are out for 2 months and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so hard, and it's hard to find places to stay, and it's hard to find, whatever it may be. Give yourself some time to ease in and forgive yourself for feeling sad that you left home, and maybe you don't feel as resilient as you thought you might right off the bat, but definitely give it a few months before deciding that this is or isn't for you. Any big transition comes with sort of an emotional journey as well as a physical one, so just make sure that you're okay with that and forgive yourself and just see what comes up. But for me, it took about 4 solid months, so that was a surprise.
So this is the inside of a cactus, and it's got these little holes, and it's so cool. I really like these. And the cactuses can weigh up to 1 ton, which is 2,000 pounds. And just because of the water that the inside of this is holding, and I just think these are so cool. You can actually turn this into an instrument. I'm not 100% sure how to, but I think you put fabric on the inside, then you fill a quarter of it with rice, and you can tilt it slightly, and it'll make a rain sound, and it's really cool. So I really like these.
So for me, it was actually kind of the opposite. I was a little surprised about how the family actually took to full-time RV living in such a small box. So it's kind of interesting how we had 2 different views, and we're looking at it from different angles as well. But yeah, I thought we kind of took to it quickly, and within the first week or 2, we were all comfortable in that little box together. So let's go on to number 8.
8.
Guilt.
There is some guilt. I don't know. Did you feel it too a little bit? I think when...
Yeah, a little bit more later on. Go into it.
Okay, so at first, I felt in many ways the first few months like we had sent this message to the people back home that where we lived wasn't good enough, or our friendships weren't enough to keep us in the same place, or somehow we were making a judgment on life and the way people choose to live it by doing what we're doing, or we didn't value what we had back there. And that's completely not what it was. I felt bad that people might have thought that that's why we chose to do this.
Right.
When in reality, we chose to do this because we needed a break and just try something new and have a more adventurous couple of years to kind of reboot ourselves. And we've always kind of been nomads. We always kind of wanted to travel, and we did some here and there, but nothing to this degree. And it was not a litmus test or anything about where we lived. We love where we live. We have no complaints about it. But we just needed a change of scenery. We wanted the kids to know and grow up knowing that the world's a big place. So I felt a little guilty for choosing this existence, like it was a judgment on the way, just so you know, we're going uphill, the way other people choose to live, and it's not.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Jen and I have always been a nomadic couple. We loved taking a month off and getting in our truck and driving up the Highway 1 in California all the way up to British Columbia. And way back then, 17 years ago, 17? About
Might
17?
be 18 now.
Even back then, we were trying to figure out how to do it longer and how could we work from the road. So for us, it's just about getting out and exploring and changing things up. Not necessarily with the intention of it being permanent. So yeah, I get that.
So number 9 on our list is the amount of teens we have found that are full-timing. So far, actually in person, this many. We've found a few on Instagram, but we're in different parts of the country, and of course now it's cold, so everybody's in warm places, but spread out. I thought that we would have a way easier time finding the people to just like say hello to, at least as we're walking the dogs, whatever, so that they wouldn't feel so like they're the only ones.
Alone in their age group?
Yeah, alone in their age group. I'm not sure they much care on the surface of things, that it hasn't bothered them at all. They're kind of enjoying the break too, and being able to see what they really like and do some things that they didn't have time to do back home. But that was a huge surprise for me. I thought there'd be more people with teenagers.
And along with teenagers comes more adults our age as well. So we find young couples with little kids and toddlers, or retired folks that are out doing this. So I don't know, we're still working on that. Maybe more to come. Hopefully we do figure out how to meet up with more people and kind of share this journey on the road with people who are doing the same thing in the same age groups. Number 10
would be shopping in places where we are unfamiliar with the store layout. It might be the same store we've shopped in before: Safeway, Albertsons, Key Supers, Target, Home Depot, but none of them are exactly alike. So I personally have spent hours grocery shopping just because I don't know where anything is, and I have to go back, and then I'm like, wait, was the dairy case back there?
Right.
Where was the rice? So back and forth across every store I go in.
So her experience in a shopping or grocery store out here where we aren't familiar is exactly like my experience in any grocery store, even if I live a mile away from it.
Any grocery store, that's true.
A lot of back and forth. All right, that is our top 10 surprises of full-time life on an RV. And stay tuned, I have a bonus one for you. And the bonus surprise of full-time life on an RV is we never know where we are. Often we'll wake up in the morning and just lay there in a little bit of a fog thinking, what's outside? It's kind of funny, actually. Actually, on video, you see me asking Jen a lot of times, where are we? But that's real. It's true. I feel for people that are used to traveling this much, pilots, flight attendants, that kind of thing, because it's got to be very confusing. You lose track. So that's your bonus.
I have one more.
What's that?
The size of the kitchen. It's weird. When we were back home, I had this huge kitchen, a big stove, and like a KitchenAid so I could mix whatever I wanted together. And I didn't bake that much. I made a mess in the kitchen, but not with baking stuff, with like art supplies and stuff. But now that we're on the RV, I find I want to bake a lot more, and I had to get like a toaster pan to make cookies because like our oven's so small. And today I got a toaster cupcake that fits six of cookies, 6 of cupcakes. It takes a while to bake, so it's a little weird.
That's your surprise, huh? All right, so if you guys got any questions, do comment down below and ask us. We're happy to answer them. Things that you might have thought of that we didn't address in our surprises to full-time life on an RV. Thanks for watching, and make sure you do follow us at ohtheplaceswillroll.com, as well as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Patreon. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next week.